Thanks for still being there. It's still AM Chat, and now we're in our discussion segment, and we have joining us to talk about the Treasury single account and its effect on doing business in Nigeria, Mr. Deji Awobotu, the CEO, Adrak Business School, Lagos, and of course, a financial expert. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you join us this morning. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome, Mr. Awobotu.
Thank you.
Awobotu.
Correct.
Okay. You're welcome once again.
Thank you.
The issue of communication and education is very, very important. I'd like you to explain or describe this initiative of the Treasury single account. Yes.
Now, from the name, Treasury single account. Now, most time we use the word Treasury, we refer to the government's fund. Okay. Now, government's fund in a single account. Now, you should understand that when we talk about the government, we're not talking about the federal government alone. Neither are we talking about the state government alone. Neither are we talking about the local government alone. We're talking about the government as an entity, alongside its ministries, departments, and agencies representing the government.
Okay.
All right. Now, drilling this down, if we pick one of the government agency, for instance, let's say NNPC, they should technically have a single account, not multiple accounts. All right. That's where the concept came out from. And looking at the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, it has been enshrined that all government revenues from all quarters should be paid or should be transferred into that single account called Consolidated Revenue Fund. Now, who is the custodian of government's money? Is simply the central bank. But watch this. I, as an individual, Deji Awobotu, I cannot pay government money into central bank because I don't have, the central bank don't do retail.
Yes,
so we need the relevant commercial banks to act as government agencies in collecting those money and remitting it to the central bank. Now there's a problem.
Has that been going on?
There's a problem. Now you know what the problem is. Now, if we look at an agency like, say, Federal Inland Revenue Service, as an example, and my intention is to pay withholding tax or to pay company income tax. Because it is government money, it should go into one single account in favor of FIRS. But what happens if we now have 5 accounts, 6 accounts, 7 accounts open for government under the custody of FIRS? There's going to be a problem. The Accountant General of the Federation will have a serious issue. All right. Now, having government money in multiple accounts will not give you a global picture of government's fund in government accounts. Now, if we have this money in this relevant account, the ideal thing is to bring all these funds together, consolidate them, and transfer. What will you say in a situation where we have 150 billion government accounts in 7, 8, 9 accounts, and it was only 50 billion that was remitted
to the central bank?
What happens to the 100 billion left? That's case number 1. Case 2. What is the time frame for remitting these funds from the respective commercial banks to the CBN? What will you say with government's money in the commercial bank for 6 months? Doing what? And don't forget that government at all levels, federal, state, local, are exposed in terms of debt. So, how can I as a government have my money with you and I come to you again to collect facility? The money that I have with you is 0 interest, and you're charging me not less than 14 or 15%. It's ridiculous. Now, it has a whole lot of effects. We have the pros and we have the cons. Right? But let's just do the right thing. Let's move the money into the Treasury single account first. Then the cons or the demerits or the issues, we can always walk around.
Now, if this has always been enshrined in the Nigerian Constitution, and the Constitution is as old as 1999,
correct.
Why do you think, is it that we've been evasive, or we're just chosen to ignore it by past governments?
We'll look at the case of the leader or the president of a nation having the will to do the right thing. Yes, we have it in the Constitution. I can tell you there's not everything we have in the Constitution that has been followed, that has been enforced. It's so sad because at the end of the day, Nigeria as a country, we are at the losing end. Some individuals, some government officials will benefit it quite well, and they will try as much as possible to frustrate all efforts to do the right thing, so long as it do not go with their own intention. The last administration actually made a pronouncement that yes, the Treasury single account should be enforced effective February 2015, but where is the will? They were still in power till May 29. What happened? There was no noise about it.
Really, because they were more interested in elections at that time.
It's sad. Can you put the case of an election before the interest of the nation?
Is that the excuse?
It's sad and it's so appalling. Sincerely, it's so appalling. We should look at Nigeria first before the personal interest of any individual. Even the president is not bigger than the country. We should look at the interest of Nigeria first. So if this is going to be the benefit of Nigeria, then it should be the paramount thing at the front burner. All government agencies, it is the rule is, or the standard is, pay the money into Treasury single account. The issues of how we're going to deal with the disbursement, how we're going to deal with our salaries, how we're going to deal with expenditure, we'll deal with that at the second level. What we are paying into the government account is government revenues. Pay government money in there. Now, the issue that has to deal with your expenditures, you must have budgeted for them. Meaning that if you have an item or a cost or an overhead that has not been budgeted for, you don't have the right to expend because it's not approved. And that takes us back to the electioneering. What are those that will approve that budget? Take the national budget for instance. If it's prepared at the end of the executives, who have to approve it? The National Assembly. Now, getting into the National Assembly, I said it in one of the presentations, you do not need to be a medical doctor. You do not need to be a chartered accountant. You do not need to be a lawyer to be elected as a member of House of Representatives or to be elected as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You do not need to. So long as you have the minimum qualification, the minimum qualification is SSC. Some lawyers are saying no, it is the first school living certificate. What is constitution is you must have a school living certificate. Okay, whether SSC or not, we leave that to the legal guys. But if I'm not a professional and I have the electoral value within my constituency to will votes to myself, I'll get elected. Irrespective of my qualification, irrespective of my exposure. Now, if I'm a mechanic, for instance, and I have the minimum qualification, I get elected as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, am I the one that will scrutinize that same budget? Where is the skill? So this goes back to the electorate. Electing someone into a political office should go beyond, I like this individual. No. What value can this individual add? As it's just going to be a floor member. And being a floor member, you may decide not to even go to the assembly and discuss anything. And that will not be the interest. It will be in the interest of Nigeria as a country. So we need to ensure that those that we elect into those offices are individuals of impeccable characters, individuals that are professional in the relevant fields that can add value to the system. Now, taking this further more, we're talking about the budget. We assume the budget is now duly approved. What's the next thing? Disbursement. So all government ministry, department, and agency are expected at the close of the preceding year to have prepared the relevant budget. The likely cost is an estimate. So we have first the original budget, and next we have a final budget. The budgets you prepare at the beginning of the year, due for approval, may not necessarily be your final budget, because there could be exigencies in the course of the year. That will lead to what we call prepare what we call a supplementary budget, which will now translate into the final budget. So you keep going back to the National Assembly, you keep going back to the State House of Assembly, you keep going back to the councillors to ensure that this is the additional cost I want to incur, and you have to justify that additional cost. Once the other members of the cabinet or of the National Assembly feels comfortable, you go ahead and approve, and you can go ahead and expend. It is wrong, it is fraudulent for you to expend without approval.
So this brings us to, it's good that you have talked about the disbursement now, which is what I want to talk about. Now, in some quarters, it's been said that the TSA, good as it is, it will create, there'll be a lot of bureaucracy. Right. Getting money out is going to take longer. Right. And then paying, let's say we have contracts now, we have to pay mobilization to the contractor has to. Don't you think that this is going to delay the execution of this contract, and probably we have the time factor of money. Okay. Money loses value. Don't you think it's going to make things more expensive?
Everything becomes cumbersome.
Now, yes. That's because we are looking at it from the perspective of, yes, this is Nigeria. Those working for the government are civil servants. So they take their time to do things. Okay. You know, if it's in the private sector, trust me, you have timelines. You don't meet up with the relevant timelines, you get tired. Why can't you run with that mentality that working in government, let's take it as a private business. If I have contract to be executed, there are milestones. Mobilization, these are what we're going to pay out. And fulfillment of this particular milestone, this is the next tranche I have to be paid. Yes. Once all those have been laid out, you don't need a lot of bureaucratic processes to ensure money gets out, so long as they've been duly approved. And that's the problem I have with government. Yes, we have the intention of doing the right thing. Move all the money into Treasury single account. Are we not going to stifle the processes of these MBAs? I've been seeing that already, because I traveled to my village, and one of the grandfathers in the village was telling me that, Deji, can you imagine, I have not collected my pension. I said, Daddy, because the guys in the ministry were saying that they moved all the money to Treasury single account, so they won't get their money until mid-October. I said, how come? So if we say we're moving our money to Treasury single account, there should also be processes of execution in terms of payments of overhead, payments of expenses. Now, if we're going to have a sub-account that these MBAs will have access to, the only thing you need to monitor is, okay, what you are paying for, has it been duly approved? If the answer is there, then follow the normal process of withdrawing the money out of the account, create sub-account. So, certainly, we might be faced with that challenge for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months. It's certain. But it's better to face those challenges than not moving our money to TSA.
And this brings me to the question I asked earlier before we started the program.
Being too heavy to manage.
Would it be too heavy to manage?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's really the major fear that people actually have.
Okay.
Being too heavy.
Okay. It's government money. Mm-hmm. And who is in charge of managing that fund in terms of reporting, expensing, and all that? The Accountant General for the Federation. So if he's not competent to do it, then he gets someone else. Mm-hmm. Now, if I have my money as government in 6 different accounts, it's still my money. What is the difference? It is a skill I need to manage those 6 monies in those 6 different accounts that I also use in managing it in a single account. So, managing government, you don't have the right. I mentioned earlier, if you are NNPC, you don't have the right to spend government money without approval. So, if it is my money as government, and we're saying move all the money into a single account, there are a lot of values that I would enjoy, that I would benefit in having it in that single account. If it is $100 billion, if it is $500 trillion, it is still my money. So, being too big to manage is just irrelevant. It is my money. I should also understand that if the money is there, it gives the Accountant General of the Federation the opportunity to look at the consolidated accounts at a glance, okay, this is the money I have, this is my exposure. I should not, one of the state governments aligned with this TSA structure and discovered that they have a 230-something billion lying fallow in a particular bank's account. So if not for the TSA, they would not say it. And some individuals in government will know that government money is there, and they will, some of them might even finally with a few of the bank executives, take this money, use it whenever we wake up. The interest on the return on it, transfer it, raise the draft, move it into a personal account. That is fraudulent. So we need to put structures in place to ensure that government gets what is right to the government. And not just money going into private pockets.
Okay. All right, we're still talking TSA and its effect on doing business in Nigeria. There's still so much to talk about on this issue. So we've still been there. We're still on with our discussion this morning. And Mr. Deji Awobotu is still here. Now, we have so many Nigerians who run their businesses with obtaining loans from banks. Now, with so many banks talking now that there's shortage of funds, they are cash-strapped and all that, how will that actually help people who want to obtain loans to run their businesses?
Okay. Well, we need to do banking the right way.
Okay.
Banks or financial institutions should not solely rely on government's fund to do business.
Which is what has been obtainable.
Yes, in Nigeria now as we speak. Now, the banks are shouting out that yes, it's going to affect liquidity and all that. There's no doubt it will affect liquidity. But the point here is, should real banking business be done or be leveraged on having access to government's funds to do business? The answer is absolutely no. So to this extent now, the banks should go back to their core business processes and ensure they do banking the way it should be done. The CBN has responsibilities to play here. The access to funds, because we have a whole lot of government funds in the financial institutions, they raise the bar of the cash reserve ratio. So to that extent, I think what the CBN should do is, now that we've withdrawn government money from the financial institution, let us reduce that ratio. If we reduce the cash ratio, the implication is the banks will have money. But just that they will not be able to make that illegal profits. I'll call it illegal profits because government's money with you are actually meant to be in CBN. You are not meant to be doing business with government's money. Government can decide to that's okay, fine. Or XYZ bank, take this 5 billion, fix it for us for a particular period of time. Why should I even get money to commercial bank when I can get the same money to Central Bank of Nigeria? The bank of the federal government is the CBN, not commercial bank XYZ. So the other complaints they raised was, well, we're going to lay off, some have been laid off a lot of staff members. Well, they're trying to put that on the clause of the federal government that, well, because of your decision to move all the money to the TSA, we're having some of our guys now thrown into the labor market. Well, we just have to do things right. You employed them earlier before now on the premise that you're making so lots of profits to be able to pay their fat salaries. But now that the profit that you're making is not on a right premise, then let us take you back to where you should be. So to take you out there to lay off some staff members, well, it's going to happen because you may not have the ability to sustain the staff members. The government now sees as a responsibility to create another outlet to get this guy out of the banking system, to absorb them into another structure. Now, the money that I have, you have to do a bit of investment here. You're going to have more money if you ask them to put the money into a single account. And having that more money will not just mean that you should just keep the money there idle. You must channel them into the system, create lots of infrastructure, create lots of and those employment opportunities you're going to create will be on the premise that we have companies that will work in. So there's been a lot of construction here and there. There are a lot of construction companies that will need staff members. From those that we have in the labor market, you're going to absorb them. So it might not be automatic. So my advice to Nigerians is, the government is treading on the right notes. let us give them all the ultimate support. In addition to that, for those that are affected by this policy, they should be a little patient, because I strongly believe in this administration, strongly believe than ever before, that jobs will be created. You know, the challenge you're going to have will be, I have 5-6 offers, which should I go for? Because there will be lots of offers.
Have a great one for Nigeria.
Of course, it's going to happen. Because we're seeing the signal, because once you can block all the leakages, then there will be enough money to play around with as a government. It's not the money is going into a private pocket that is now transferring the money into a Swiss bank account. That's not having any effects in Nigeria. But if the monies are here in Nigeria, then it can be channeled into lots of structures, lots of processing, lots of construction, lots of employment opportunity will certainly be created at the end of the day. Now, guys out there, graduates, we have a lot of employment, you know, to get in.
Okay, we'll be talking about banks. Apart from banks, you know, which other victims do we have of this changing policy?
Now, it has to do with finance. So the major entity that will be affected will certainly be financial institution. I'm an entrepreneur. I have my company.
Is it going to affect you directly?
I said I go to the bank to ask for a loan. But watch this. If I walk up to the bank to get a loan, because they don't have that free fall of funds anymore, and the bank still needs profit, they need to declare fantastic profit. Don't forget they are listed on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange.
Yes.
And the share price has a direct relationship with the level of profits. So if you don't declare enough profit, trust me, investors will not be happy with you. They will dump your shares. What happens? The share price will drop. And once the share price drops, the other shareholders will not feel comfortable. The directors will be on the major things right now.
Yes.
So their plan will be, let me milk enough from those that are asking for money from me. So if you're going to the bank to ask for 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, 10 billion, trust me, you might pay a huge interest. So certainly it's going to affect business. And once I pay high interest, trust me, I'm going to factor the cost of that interest into the cost of doing business.
Yes.
And who's going to take the hits?
Consumers.
Certainly.
Oh.
So it will certainly affect us all. But at the long run, we will be better for it. This is the hit we are taking right now.
But would you agree, you know, some analysts have said that this initiative should have been a gradual process, not spontaneous.
Okay. Okay. I've always been hearing comments like that. Most especially when it has to do with government policies. You know, the federal government said, okay, Nigeria should adopt the international standards, and they give a roadmap. For heaven's sake, it started in 2012, 13, 14.
I didn't know in 2012.
Oh, but all quoted companies, were to convert the financial statement to IFRS. And the information, the approval was given in 2010 when the Federal Executive Council approved. Now, we're in 2015. Some companies that should have converted 2013 are still saying they should have given us enough notice. For heaven's sake. We have known our character as Nigeria. If you want to do a thing, give the information, and thank God that the past administration started that process. And they gave a deadline of February 2015. Nothing happened. So I would say we don't have enough. How many? Okay, let us even define. What is the time frame that you need to be involved to move the cross over to TSA? You know, that's the nature of Nigerians. They will always tell you, well, we should take a gradual process. There's no gradual. Is there you're cutting over, you're not cutting over. It's so simple.
It's because this morning I still heard about 22 million people have still not registered for the BBN. And there's a
so you can imagine. So that's our nature, that's our character in Nigeria. So we should just ensure we need to be disciplined. And that's why we need a disciplined government to take us to the next level. You know, I want to travel as a Nigerian and meet with other international counterparts and be so proud he's a Nigerian. They want to get close to me, they want to get used to me. Why? Because of the perception they have about my country. But that will not happen if you are not disciplined. It will not happen if you are not serious. And the only way we can be serious is if our leaders are serious and are determined to achieve greater benefit for the nation as a whole. So certainly, it will not be on the bed of roses. We will be affected. There's no doubt about it.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. We'll get there. But it should be prepared that policies will come. The way we've been doing things before will not longer be business as usual. And that is the preaching and the era of change that we're in. And the change should start from us. Our leaders have started, so let's give them the maximum support.
All right, thank you, Mr. Deji Awobotu, for joining us this morning. He's the CEO of Adrak Business School here in Lagos, and he's also a financial expert. And you will agree with me that he has helped us. He has helped me to understand what it will actually look like running business in Nigeria with the TCA account in effect. So I want to thank you again for coming this morning.
You're welcome.
Wish you all the best, sir.
Thank you very much, madam.